I, nearly adult female, lost my dad when I was 5. My parents were married, but I remember Dad being more present in my early memories than Mom. And when my dad died, I knew my mom wasn't there for me. She left me to raise myself, or roped in some extended family to care for me, usually my grandparents. But she wouldn't always do that, and I was forced to become independent and more mature in some ways to raise myself. I had to make sure I ate, did homework, and got to school on time, all without my mom helping me. The thing she'd do the most was make some food, but she wouldn't even tell me she had it. I usually had to search the fridge to find it. My grandparents were the ones who celebrated my birthdays with me, and they typically went to my school for parent conferences. My mom doesn't know me. She couldn't tell you what classes I took in high school, what my favorite food or color is, who my friends and best friends are. Nothing. 5 years ago, she met her husband, Sam, and pretty quickly, like before they were living together, my mom got pregnant. So Sam moved in, and my mom married him. The baby was born a few years ago, and her son followed along 2 years ago. Right away, I saw the difference in how my mom was with them. She knows them, loves them, dedicates time to them, and advocates for them. All the things I do not remember her ever doing for me. She eats with them and plays with them. She takes her daughter to preschool every day and takes her for a treat afterward. It sucks to see. I didn't get a good mom, but I see she had it in her to be a good mom and chose not to be. Sam isn't as good as my dad was, though, but he's still better than my mom ever was to me. Last week, my mom asked me to babysit for her and Sam, and I said no. My mom was shocked and asked me why I wouldn't babysit. I told her I had work and I had plans with friends. She told me she would have expected me to want time with the kids. I told her I didn't want time with her over family. She asked me what that meant, and I said Sam and the kids are her do-over family. She's a better mom to her younger kids, and she and Sam have created their own perfect little family with them and their kids. But she was never that for me. I told her I had zero interest in helping her with the do-over family. I pointed out that it was the most she had said to me in years, because she usually doesn't talk to me or include me in anything. The only reason she was speaking to me was that she wanted something. She was all, "How dare you say that about Sam and the kids?" She told me I had an awful attitude, and she hoped the kids would never pick up on how I felt about them and their dad. She told me they deserved better than being described that way, and she told me I had some nerve to be jealous that her kids had a happy family life. I laughed and told her she only cared about them, and that was clear. She called me a nasty little witch. Am I the idiot? I mean, no, not the idiot. You're right, and we're blunt about it. Your mom wasn't and isn't there for you, and it must really hurt to see her be the mom you had wished for. You understandably lashed out at her, and in response, she cussed you out, which is unacceptable. You didn't attack the kids. You directed your anger toward the right recipient. Your mom didn't want to hear your truth. It sounds like you have your head screwed on right, but I would start making plans for when you can get out of there. College is fantastic. You can find your own chosen family. What I find funny is, how dare you say that about Sam and the kids? No, lady. Your daughter's talking about you. Also, it's incredible that 1 minute, they're family. Still, once OP says something about her being a bad mom, Sam and the kids are completely different entities from OP. There isn't a family unit anymore, with OP involved. Exactly. OP, your mother's trying to deflect your truth onto her husband and your siblings, rather than facing the fact that she's the one who's the problem. Ask her some questions. What subjects, foods, etc. are your favorites? What did you do for a particular holiday or birthday? Who was your 5th, 7th, etc. grade teacher? Or whatever questions you want. When she can't answer, tell her she's proved your point. This has nothing to do with her husband or your siblings. It's all on her. Good luck, OP. You deserve better than that, and I hope you'll find better. Ever since my husband died, I have been a very lonely woman. I, 55 female, have one son, 27, and 2 grandchildren, a male tween and a female toddler, with the 3rd and 4th due in 6 months. His first child is from his ex-girlfriend, 25, while his second and soon-to-be twins are from his current wife, 27. My son is a very bright but naive boy. He was head over heels in love with his ex, and when he got accepted into his dream university, she dropped out of school to follow him and start their perfect family. Their relationship didn't survive the following year. Despite all the stress and workload of college, my son still paid child support and visited his child. They both moved on to different relationships. My son married a beautiful, kind girl he met in college. His ex started dating another man and had 3 more kids, a preteen male, a preschool female, and a male toddler with him. Earlier this month, his ex came to him, needing somewhere to live. To put it briefly, her new partner was an awful person. She was 7 months pregnant, had 4 kids, and had no money, job, or education. His ex has a mental illness that has caused her a hard time keeping a job, and they've been living at a homeless shelter for the past week. My son and daughter-in-law were kind enough to let them temporarily stay at their home, rent-free, until she found somewhere else. My daughter-in-law's parents worked in real estate and were renting out one of their properties, a 2-bedroom house, to them for a reduced cost. My son and his wife had been having financial troubles ever since their daughter was born premature, and with the twins on the way, I thought they would need a larger home. In the 1990s, I inherited a spacious home from my grandparents with 7 bedrooms and 3 extra rooms turned into an office, library, and art studio. My husband and I, as an otherwise regular middle-class couple, were incredibly thankful for their generosity. It's so large that it can technically be considered a mansion, and I've been living in it all alone after my husband's death. I discussed it with my son and daughter-in-law, and we agreed it would be best if they moved in. After all, this house is way too big for one woman. However, my son's ex and her kids would not be allowed to join them. My grandson would be allowed to stay if he had nowhere to go, but the rest of the family had nothing to do with me. Don't get me wrong, I empathize with her situation, but at the end of the day, they're not my family. I worry about potential tensions that could arise. Pregnancy's stressful enough. It wouldn't be fair for my daughter-in-law to share her husband with his ex. I refuse to let my beautiful home be a breeding ground for dysfunction. I talked this over with my daughter-in-law's parents, and they decided to give the ex 1 month to find somewhere else to live while my son prepares to move in. The ex has been absolutely livid with me for trying to tear apart her family. I explained to her that it was my house, my rules. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Sure, her situation is awful, but you're not obligated to shelter her and 3 kids who aren't related to you at all. If your son and his wife want to help, that's really kind of them, but you can make your own decisions. Your points are valid. It would not be a good idea to have your son, his wife, his ex, and so many kids under one roof, especially since she's pregnant. I hope this woman finds a place to stay and a partner who loves and supports her, but this is not your problem. Really, can you imagine? She came crawling back and expected him to start being her husband right in front of his actual wife? She would 100% try to treat her ex as a husband and expect him to do for her like he's doing for his actual wife. I'm sorry the ex is in a bad position, but I would never allow her to move in. Honestly, the maths is killing me. They all need some education and a healthy supply of protection. The son was 17 and had his girlfriend pregnant. Am I too tired to read this right? And then she had more and more kids? How can people afford this? Not the idiot. It's your place to do what you will, but your son and his ex need to stop and think about the consequences and actions. I say this with a brother with 8 kids by 3 mothers, and he can't figure out why he's not winning in life. Some background. I'm a freshman in college, living in a dorm, and got a randomly assigned roommate. We live very different lifestyles. I like to stay up late and sleep in late, and she likes to go to bed early and wake up early. At the beginning of the year, she told me she likes to go to bed early and is a light sleeper. I told her I'd like to stay up late, and we agreed that she could turn out the light at any point, and I would be quiet after that. She goes to bed 9 to 11-ish, and I often get ready for bed and lay in bed at these times out of respect. However, there are generally 2 to 3 nights a week, one of which is a weekday, that I stay up and out past this time. I keep the light off and do nothing more than crawl into bed when I return home, 12 to 3-ish. About 3 weeks ago, my roommate told me she doesn't like me staying out late because it affects her sleep, and she wants me back by 12. My friends have made fun of me since, because out of respect for her, I've left parties, study sessions, and hangouts early to get home on time, except for a few exceptions. On Monday night, I was out playing board games with friends and lost track of time. I noticed it was 12:30, and out of respect for her, I decided to pull an all-nighter with my friends in the common room. I returned at 8:15 to shower that morning because I had a meeting at 9. However, I got an angry text later that day calling me out for returning at 8:15, despite me doing my best to remain quiet and even not returning home at an unreasonable hour, as I would have been up at that time anyway. I responded and apologized for waking her up, but explained that I stayed out all night for her and I did nothing wrong. I also explained that while I was willing to compromise and be back most nights at midnight, as long as I was courteous, there would be nights that I'd come back later. I got a message last night that she had scheduled a meeting with our RA to mediate, and I honestly want to know if I'm in the wrong, if she's in the wrong, or if it's just a bad situation. Decidedly not the idiot. Your roommate is delusional. You are free to come and go as you please. You pay tuition, room, and board, just like your roommate does. If your roommate thinks they can control what anyone else does, they're as unrealistic as they are entitled. She isn't your mother and can't dictate how late you stay out. She should have been up when you came in if she's such an early riser. As long as you're being respectful, you can keep whatever hours you want, and it's none of her business. She needs to get some earplugs and a sleep mask if she's bothered. She sounds like an angry control freak, and you aren't jumping at her command. Yeah, I'm absolutely floored by the audacity and absurdity of OP's roommate. I thought I might be at least a little empathetic towards her, but forget it. All I can think is, holy flying doodle. I thought this was going to be along the lines of using headphones to watch something on a laptop after midnight. Instead, the roommate sounds quite controlling. I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that RA meeting. I, 26 female, recently had twins with my husband, Harry, 30. I love my babies so much, but the labor was a nightmare. It was extremely traumatic for my husband and me, and we've agreed that we're definitely not having any more kids. I labored for 2 days, and we kept our families updated throughout the process. When they were finally able to visit, my parents and my in-laws came to see us. Everyone fussed over the babies, and my poor husband, who only had about 4 hours of sleep for the whole 2 days, was napping. However, my dad sat by me first and held my hand for a bit. When I told him to go get some cuddles with the twins, he said, "I'm here to see my baby," meaning me. It was honestly so sweet, and I started tearing up. I didn't even realize how invisible I felt when my husband was sleeping, and my dad was there to make sure I was also being taken care of. He took me down to the hospital cafe, and we had breakfast together while the babies were with everyone else. I kept thinking about what my dad did for the next few days, and I decided to give my newborn son my father's name as his middle name. My husband was totally on board with this. However, this is where the problem began. We knew my father-in-law would be pretty angry at this. He always wanted a grandson named after him, but it's pretty clear he won't get one now. He has 2 sons, my husband and his younger brother, and my brother-in-law is gay and currently says he doesn't want to adopt kids in the future. My father-in-law is also one of those people who cares about bloodlines, so I don't think he'd want an adopted grandson named after him. Messed up, I know. My husband has a complicated relationship with his father, so he wasn't comfortable naming our son after him, but we agreed to give them the same initials so they'd both be AHD. He accepted this, but when he found out we were switching the middle name for my father, he lost his mind. He said that this was something he had always wanted, and we were throwing it in his face by giving the baby my father's name as his middle name. I tried to explain why, but he cut me off and said that it was absurd to expect someone to check on me when there were babies that had just been born. My father shouldn't be rewarded for ignoring his grandchildren. I tried to explain that it was more than just the moment because my dad has been my best friend for my whole life, but he didn't want to hear it. Mother-in-law is saying we are idiots for doing this because my dad doesn't care about any grandchildren being named after him, but my father-in-law's always wanted it. According to her, we're taking something away from him just because my dad chose to do something unusual, which to them was ignoring the babies until he was satisfied with me being okay. He did not ignore the kids. He got plenty of cuddles in when we got back from breakfast. My dad is honored by our choice, but thinks we shouldn't have done it because of what it means to father-in-law. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. So if you named your son after your father-in-law, you'd be doing so simply to appease an idiot, not because he's good and kind and someone you want your child to emulate, but because he's a bully, accustomed to forcing others to do his bidding. And let's take that further. Assume you did name your son after him. Does it end there? Or does father-in-law feel he now exerts some influence and control over your son? Your in-laws sound awful, and they don't get a say in how you name your child. Honestly, OP did both of her children a favor by not naming them after the father-in-law. The poor kid with the name would be hounded and harassed to live up to his bloodline, and the other would forever be a reject. Also, don't give in to tantrums. You'll need this advice with your own children. Might as well start with father-in-law, LOL. Not the idiot, and I've fallen slightly in love with your dad. What a touching moment you shared. And I'm sorry your father-in-law's tainting it. I'm glad your husband is supporting you. I, 40 female, have a daughter, a young teen, who isn't exactly a tomboy, but does boy activities. I'm saying boy activities for the sake of this post. And my mom, 63, is pretty old-fashioned. My daughter isn't doing a sport right now, but she did winter and fall sports. Whenever my mom saw her coming back from basketball, all sweaty and stuff, she would scrunch her face. She would tell me her being sweaty and nasty isn't a good image, but she wasn't saying that to my daughter, according to her and my daughter, so I didn't make too much of it. My husband, daughter, son, and I went to a semi-formal Sweet 16 on Saturday. My daughter wore a really nice green dress, but my mom's issue? My daughter doesn't wear makeup, so she wasn't wearing any. Upon noticing, she said, "Missy, you're very unladylike." Before she could sit down, I told her to get on her phone and call someone because she sure wasn't staying here after saying that. My brother came and picked her up. Now I wonder whether I overreacted because my daughter didn't even seem to care and thought I should have let this slide. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're right to shut her down. I'm 61, and I remember how oppressive ladylike was as a kid. My brothers were never told to be gentlemen. That would never happen unless they were harassing a girl. But my behavior would be curtailed in very many ways if I had only allowed myself to be ladylike. It was wrong in 1969, and it's very wrong now. And in 1969, a young teen wearing makeup, except maybe nail polish, would have been frowned upon. Your mother's inventing her own standards of womanhood that have never been normal. Keep her away from your daughter, though truth be known, even in the 60s, when ladylike was pretty accepted amongst the older generation than my parents, I happily ignored it and carved my own path. Your daughter probably will too, but it's better to be safe. She takes issue with girls playing sports? What is she, from 1850? And a 13-year-old does not need to wear makeup. Nobody does, but certainly not a kid that age. Many girls aren't even allowed to wear makeup yet at that age, and your mom thinks she should wear it daily? Screw all of this. I guarantee your daughter cares, and your mom's comments hurt her, but she knows you have her back. You are the shield between your daughter's heart and your mother's outdated judgment.